Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center right here in Tempe, Arizona, where we help build businesses and connect you with the right people. And I've only had 5 minutes with these right people, and I'm very excited to get to know them better. We have Empire Insurance Brokers team, Ryan Ferry and Mary Wilson. Welcome to Phoenix Business Radio.
Thank you.
So thrilled to have you. We were talking in, I'll call it the green room for lack of a better word, the lobby.
The beige room.
So the
Right.
beige room. It sounds so official. As we got to know each other and came and brought you back to the studio, that you've been in Arizona for a while, but you haven't had businesses here for a while. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're established up in the Pacific Northwest, up in the Seattle market. We've been big fans of the Scottsdale area.
Big fans.
Yeah,
Love it.
And but you've had a home here for a while.
we have.
We have since I think 2017, I think.
Yep, late
Something
17, I believe.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
And
Yeah.
Central Scottsdale area, just off of Shea, out towards Fountain Hills a ways, and
Yeah.
now we're up in the Rio Verde area.
I love it. And you're Arizonans. You're
Of course.
and also spending time in Washington.
We do have to split time between our home state of Washington, only because we both have children up there still. So,
Yeah.
and exes. So we do have a parenting plan that we have to adhere to,
Yeah.
of course. So when we don't have our children with us, we're down here 1 week on, 1 week off. So we do a fair amount of flying back and forth.
Okay. So a married couple also in
Yes.
business together, and it's Empire Insurance Brokers. Before we talk about really the relationship of the two of you, let's talk about Empire Insurance
Yeah.
and who do you serve? What do you do? How long have you been doing it? And then we'll kind of do the backstory.
So we've been in business since 2006. So 18 years now. So we do a little bit of everything. The only thing we don't do is medical. We don't play in that, but we do personal, business,
Life
life.
insurance.
Um,
Yeah, the agency started in 2006 up in Washington State, and we were originally a captive agents. We can get into kind of the yeses and nos of those two, captive versus a broker. We started as a captive nationwide agent up there in Linwood, Washington, North Seattle suburb, and perfect time to open it. 2006, the economy was roaring. About 18 months in, the wheels fell off the bus, obviously. So we all went through the recession. We all have our own horror story. 80% of the people in my same field lost their jobs, lost their businesses. These are business owners that just couldn't survive. And it was tough. We were on life support there for a couple of years. We were down to minimal staff at the worst part of it. And we just survived. I call us the cockroach after the apocalypse. I don't care, but we literally made it. We rebranded, we grew and grew and grew. And now we're 13 agents, 13 locations in 4 states with California, and 36 employees. It's quite the recovery story. We're pretty proud of it.
For sure.
Yeah.
What's the secret sauce then? How does somebody go from feeling like, oh, when are we going to pull the plug because this is not working, to, oh my goodness, let's keep growing?
Well, I can't say this is everybody's story, but my story was I met her. So
So we hope that not anybody else can say
really-
that.
I know, right? Everyone
She's
met
very
me.
popular, but
Right.
she's obviously she's a very bubbly person. She's dynamic. She's highly intelligent. She's very motivated. We complement each other very well. We're both risk takers. We're both entrepreneurs. So the personality sides of us meshed very well. And like I was telling some of my peers back in the day, we were all depressed. It was you're laying off your staff. It's just dark, it's not fun. And she just was a ray of light, honestly. And we just kind of blossomed together, and I was happy, and a happy salesperson just sells more. It's just that simple.
When we got together, he had one part-time employee. That was
it
it.
was that dire, one office, one part-time employee, and myself.
And you hired Mary, or you started dating?
No. I just started dating Mary.
Okay,
We just started dating. He
love this.
He met me on eHarmony.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're a success story from
Yeah.
For
eHarmony.
sure.
Yeah. We never got our
We
commercial.
never got our
but
commercial.
we made it.
Yeah.
I love that.
And a little side note, when we were married 7 years ago, our friends married us. He's an ordained minister and he's got 100% success rate. Like, I think at this point he's married probably 20 couples and all of them are still together over
I
10
love
years.
that. So important.
So we're not allowed to get divorced. So
Right.
we had to sign a
Right.
contract for that.
We got to keep the rate up.
That's
It was,
right.
we're very laid back. We're very relaxed, chill. We like to just goof off, have fun with each other. It's a really good dynamic. So
Yeah.
It sounds like it. So I was thinking, you're like, Mary was, she came in to apply for a job. I interviewed her.
no, I didn't.
She wasn't
break that
interested
law.
in me at all. She didn't even want the job,
Right.
but I grew on her. No.
Well, there actually is. So as the story evolved, I always called it getting yourself a Tina. So I came across this very, very highly skilled person because when we finally started to get a little bit of momentum, we had to bring someone on. I needed someone to kind of quasi office manager, operations. And I met this young person named Tina. Well, young, she's my age.
That's young.
And we just,
Right.
it's a weird story, but she was interviewing me as much as I was interviewing her because she was almost cocky in the interview to the point where she's like, why do you deserve me? Like, I'm a commodity. Like, explain yourself to me. And it kind of took me back for a second. And I'd hired dozens or probably 100 people in my life at that point. And I was like, well, this is kind of cocky. Like, this is interesting, but it worked. And long story short, she came in, we really transformed the agency. This is still pre-Mary. Mary and I were still a couple, but this is before. Mary had a very successful career of her own. She's a project manager.
I was in IT for years.
She's got an MBA.
Years and
She's a
years.
very dynamic person. So to be candid, I couldn't afford to hire someone of her caliber. It was
But
really
Tina
that simple.
was looking like
Tina
the
was
next candidate,
Tina
the
was
first-
looking like
yeah.
the
Tina was awesome.
safe option. Yeah. And
Yeah.
and Tina and I really kind of just got the business going around 2020, late 2020. We came across an opportunity where we could purchase an agency that was a rather large agency. It was a peer of ours, just worked out to where I needed a project manager to make this deal work. I happen to know a project manager. She was sitting across
Right.
the table from me. She actually convinced me that it would be a good idea to bring her on board just because of the
Complexities
complexity
that are involved
of
in
it.
bringing these two
You're talking
organizations
about
together
two
and
cultures and two
So much.
systems, two client
Yeah.
management systems, completely different operational skills.
right.
We absorbed 13 employees in 4 offices at the time. It was we were about the same size. They were slightly larger than us. So it was like the little guy buying the big guy and then it's like when McDonnell Douglas, used Boeing's money to buy Boeing.
Mhm.
So, but they were the small one, but they ended up taking the culture. So it was kind of the same thing. Without her, it would have been a complete disaster. It would not have been as nearly successful as it was. And it was rife with problems. I mean, we had
My
all
God.
kinds of problems on that. So you toss in a major acquisition 2 months before a pandemic hits, capital markets are dried up. It was, I mean, I've had 2 of the most traumatic business fiascos in my life happen at times when it's like,
Yeah.
And you're
got
still
to be-
standing.
We're still standing. We're actually thriving. We've made
Yeah.
it through. We've weathered every storm. We're riddled with bullet holes, but it's metaphorical bullet holes. But
He is like a fight. He will not give up. I mean,
I
he
don't.
is like
Yeah.
competitive.
yes.
One of the most competitive people I've ever met. And it doesn't matter. He's not, you're going to kick him down and he's going to get right back up
Yeah.
and he's going to keep going.
not
and then you're
always
going to kick him down.
The smartest play, but I do.
But yeah,
I'm a fighter.
yeah.
But you two
doesn't
play
fall.
play off each other very well. Mary, I should have done this before we got started. Your microphone, I wanted you just like we had Ryan do it, just tilt it down a little bit towards you. Yeah, that way I can see your smile more. Look at you. Look at that.
Is that better?
What a great team.
Nice
It
lipstick
is-
today.
Oh, I'm just going to step out of the room and let you guys
Oh my
handle this
God.
on your own. All right. So we got to hear from Ryan how, he kind of not only acquired your heart, but also acquired your brain and the whole package as it relates to the business. From your perspective, what do you remember about kind of not only being together as a couple, but then also thinking to yourself, I think I'm ready to get involved in the business. What was that like for you?
Yeah. I was always excited about it because I mean, I had been an employee for years, but the thought of kind of making the direction and determining the destiny and all of that was really interesting to me. I saw him do it for years, and I mean, he's brilliant at business. That's his game. That's his jam. I mean, that is his thing. So, but when he was getting this acquisition, I've wanted to get into the business for a while. We just like financially, it just didn't make a lot of sense for a long time.
And she had better medical insurance than I could
And I
provide.
had better medical insurance. That's legit.
That's part of it.
So when he got this opportunity to get this acquisition, I'm like, okay, this is like a no-brainer because this is what I've been doing for 20 years.
Yeah.
This is going to be a lot more moving parts than you've had to deal with. And you don't really have anyone with the skill set at the moment. I mean, Tina's doing operations, she's doing that with her hands tied behind her back, but this is like a whole new beast. So, you've done these onesie twosies. This is a whole new beast. Let me get in. Let me make this work. Let's get your technology in place because the technology that he had was minimal.
It was economically friendly. That's the way I would say
it. Was minimal. So I came in and I had to bring, we brought the systems together. We actually got into a new agency management system. I got new, texting capabilities.
MFA. It was a lot.
It was a whole technology overhaul, the whole thing. And it was, it was painful for some people because some people don't like change.
Right.
That's not a thing.
Some people, the
employees.
Yeah.
Oh
Sure.
yeah, that's a thing. So, especially in insurance, this is not a technology. Because I was in IT forever, and you just expect change. Like something's going to change tomorrow. Like this new IT is going to come out, and this company's going to want it, and you're just going to have to figure it out. And that's how it is always. That's not insurance. Like insurance is like we've done this
at glacial pace
for 10,000 years, and we're going to keep doing it like that. So it was like a huge cultural shift that had to happen as well. So there was a lot going into it, but that's how I got into it because I saw this big acquisition coming. I'm like, okay, this is the time that you need me. Like you probably didn't need me before, but now this is going to be, huge.
And to be fair, I was not a willing participant in that. I did not want her to come on board because
interesting.
The original agency when we started it back in 2006 was with my ex-wife at the time. So
he was sure we were going to get divorced.
I was 100% sure we were going to get divorced.
And why would he want to ruin a good thing?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
right.
The relationship was more important to me than the business.
Yeah.
So it's a little selfish in that. But honestly, we haven't had a hiccup. It's been perfect. So we banter back and forth. Obviously, there's always going to be some push and shove. At the end of the day, she lays out the pros and cons of whatever this situation is. She lets me be the business owner in that regard and make the top level decision. But she provides me as much information as I can possibly.
I'm a data geek, so I give him all the data, and I'm like, look, you're the business brain. I'm not going to act like I am. Here's the data.
Yeah. We kind of made the comment earlier off air about I'm the 30,000 foot guy, the visionary.
Yeah.
She's definitely the girl in the weeds. She is 100% comfortable in there. She's a data miner. Our industry is completely data driven now. There's nothing that insurance companies are second only to the government with as much information as they track about an individual. So knowing what you've got, knowing the benefits and the demographics of your clients, the makeup of the book of business that you have is really where the revenue comes from an insurance agency. So making sure you've got the right products available to the right clients because of their specific needs. It's all completely data driven and all managed by Miriam.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like the Amazon of the corporation because I'm obsessed with customer satisfaction. I'm like, if a customer is not happy, like everyone knows about it.
If it wasn't cliche, we'd call her like the customer experience VP.
Yeah.
But everybody's done that now. It's kind of
that's one of your specialties is making sure that the relationship is important for everybody, all stakeholders.
Yes. And I'm always looking at the data to see, do we have any issues? Are there any trends in what customers are telling us and things like that? So, things where we can fix because no one's perfect and we're never going to be perfect. But I always want to work on, how we can make things better for the customer because an insurance is insurance. It's not exciting. It's not sexy. It's a necessary
evil.
Instagrammy, like, but
Oh, you guys would be awesome. Do you have an Instagram? My mind is already racing for the two of you.
I don't think we're on Instagram, Twitter, and
we do need to get an
LinkedIn.
Instagram. That's a fail.
I couldn't bring myself to do Twitter ever. So, but the personality, the dynamic, and really the energy between the two of you is palatable. So I love it. Let's talk a little bit about the specifics for our listeners and viewers when it comes to the products and the service that you provide. So you had mentioned, Ryan, early on, you're a broker, and then you had a new phrase that I've never heard.
Captive.
Yeah, it's funny. That's just such an awful word.
It is, isn't it?
Right. And I've never. Right.
Yeah.
Is that your word or have other people?
No, that's an industry term.
Oh, it's, maybe I wasn't listening, but that's the first time I've heard it. So for our naive audience, myself included, what is the difference between broker and captive? I think I know the answer, but tell us.
So a captive or exclusive is another term that kind of interchangeable. Captive is kind of the nomenclature for an agency that only represents one brand.
Sure.
So think of it as your State Farms, Allstates, Farmers, American Family, some of the local ones out here. There's other smaller ones out there. Generally speaking, there's some, tangents you can go off on that, but generally speaking, they represent one brand.
Mm-hmm.
They work for their independent agency owners, just like we are. They own their book, or they have the ability to direct where that book goes if they wanted to sell it or something. But for the most part, they represent one brand. So they're beholden to that brand, their rates, their product lineup, the rules. It's absolute mass pandemonium in our industry right now. It's the worst insurance market that I've seen in 26 years.
Why is that? Is it because of the economy? That it's an election year? What's the deal?
It's very complicated. There's 100 things that have gone on. We're still in a pandemic hangover. So if you remember back in the very beginning of the pandemic, everything shut down. Everyone remembers that. So the issue was people weren't driving their cars. People weren't buying houses. People weren't insuring businesses. A lot of what happened. So we're a very regulated industry. We have every state has its own insurance commissioner. They're all directly responsible for the consumers in that state regarding the insurance products offered and the governance of that.
Mm-hmm.
They control the rates. They control when, if, Travelers Insurance wants to take a rate increase because their profitability is suffering or they're losing money and they can't commit to their policyholders. They can't come through when there's a claim. They have to justify it to the Division of Insurance, the DOI. And that person will review it to see, okay, well, that's fair. That's not fair. You can take this much. You can't take that much, or this time. So what happened was during the pandemic, they required all of the insurance carriers to give back premium because people weren't driving their cars. There were fewer claims. Logical, makes sense. Problem was they weren't able to get the premium rolling back up once people started going. So it was a very slow.
I did not know that.
Yeah. So that just started the snowball down the hill. Then you toss in, inflated interest rates. So now capital isn't available to all of these other carriers. They're not able to take on further risks because they're just not big enough, or they just don't have the reserves. The thing with that insurance, and this is where it gets super boring. I'm just going to apologize in advance. So you always have reserves. So every time you pay your premium, part of that goes into the bank and it stays there to pay future claims. Mm-hmm. Depending on the ability for that big chunk of money that insurance company controls, they can make money on that and get more money into the premium. So they don't have to charge as much because they do get to have a little bit of a profit. They're allowed a reasonable profit. Reasonable is a very subjective term. Reasonable to the DOI might be 3%. Reasonable to the carrier might be 7%. We're not talking huge money. This isn't where there's massive windfalls and stuff like that. We're talking about very similar small margins, grocery style margins. So the middle, they're making 1 or 2 cents on that can of soup. So when they don't have enough money in the bank, they can't grow their book. They can't expand into other markets. They contract. So after that, the interest rates, the thing that's really misunderstood in the market is insurance companies have insurance. They have to buy their own insurance policies. It's called reinsurance, and that protects the carrier, like a State Farm or a Nationwide, against a hurricane exposure, a wildfire exposure. So think about, you have collision coverage on your car, you get in an accident, you have to pay your deductible. Well, they have a deductible. It might be $100 or $250 million as a deductible. But after that, the reinsurance company is starting to pay for that claim.
Mhm.
Reinsurers are not in the market of offering coverage right now because there's not enough money in it. They can't make the money.
Oh.
So that's what's driving everyone's rates up right now. And I don't know if you've personally felt it, but many of our clients have experienced significant double digit.
Oh my gosh, the rate increases are crazy.
And is
They're
this
just
on
crazy.
particular policies or all of them?
For the most part, it's auto insurance. That's really the driver at the moment. Homeowners is not far behind it. Homeowners has a little bit different of a problem right now. The issue with that is the wildfire exposure is changing on a daily basis in America. There's a lot more significant wildfire events, and they weren't a thing 5 years ago.
Mhm.
And whether that's media driven or it's reality, there's just more wildfire events nowadays.
Mhm.
And when that happens, the insurance companies, they have to charge more because there's more losses or bigger losses. And if the division of insurance isn't allowing them to take that rate fast enough, they just say, we can't do it. So they stop offering insurance. So if you followed the California market a little bit, because you guys are fairly tight at the hip here, they just stop writing insurance in that state. So State Farm just is non-renewing 72,000
Yeah, a lot of
homeowners
homeowners.
in California.
It's just chaos right now.
Nationwide
I had
insurance
no idea.
It's chaos.
stopped writing new policies.
Yeah.
American National is pulling out of the state. It's just they can't survive based on the rating model. So it's just like any other macroeconomic event. When there's fewer players in the market, costs are just going to go up for
Yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
And so customer service is paramount right now.
Absolutely.
Because of the chaos. Because when things are going fine, they're like, oh, it renews. Maybe it went up 5%. I don't know. Not a big deal. Right. But now everyone is getting these huge rate increases. It's, they're calling in, they want requotes. See, do you have anything like cheaper? Is there anything we can do? And so you're getting a lot of customer touch right now because of the chaos. So it's super important. I'm, big on this is making sure the customer's taken care of because there's so much insanity right now. There's weird things happening with auto. He mentioned autos. Auto's a big thing. Autos are getting a lot of increases. There's things that you would never think of, that I would never think of, right? Like if they go and a car gets damaged and it was owned by someone that was like doing fentanyl.
Yeah.
They can't go in to fix the car because
so
it's too dangerous.
A lot of that's like on a theft situation.
Yeah.
So your car gets stolen.
It's bizarre.
This is a big thing up
Yeah,
in Washington
and we've
State.
never. That's how new.
You would
It's
never think about
bizarre.
that. So someone steals your car and they recover the car. However, they find drug paraphernalia in it. The assumption is that fentanyl is part of that drug paraphernalia. So, and that's the case. It's lethal if you get it on you, if you're not prepared for it. So body shops just don't fix those cars.
Right.
So if there's damage, you just have to total the car. It might be a $30,000, car that you just can't repair. So it's scrapped.
And our insurance is not going to cover that.
They do cover it,
Oh.
but it's just costing
That's
more
why
to pay
the
for that
auto
claim.
rates are going up.
Okay,
Because
because
of these
Yep.
weird
It would have been a
circumstances.
$6,000 repair, let's say,
I
but now it's a
see.
$30,000 total loss because there was fentanyl involved. It's these little weird things, and you don't think anything of it. Did you know that catalytic converters are like $2,000 to $3,000 to replace on your car? Well, they get up $30 in scrap metal from the scrap guy down there, but we had 2,000 catalytic converters stolen in King County last
Yep.
year.
Yeah.
And it's just the same down here in Maricopa. So until there's legislation that stops broker or metal dealers from dealing in these things, and some states are finally starting to pick that up, it's
There's so many different factors that
There's-
influence it.
it's
so
weirdly
complicated.
complicated.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
And this is a great time. Then I'm hearing you say to be a broker
Yeah. So
because you can offer the variety and really
Correct.
help
Yeah.
shop around.
Yeah.
Do the homework for them, right?
Yes.
correct.
It's
And that's
super
where
helpful.
we digress from the captive. So as a broker, we represent dozens of different insurance companies. So we have the ability to work with other carriers. We may not be able to find you a better rate, but we have the ability to do that. Really in this market, it's kind of be impatient. So if you can stomach the rate increase you're getting right now, it's almost worth it just to stay put. Don't switch from in carrier to carrier, because you're almost penalized by doing that.
Mhm.
And you're not getting long-term discounts. You're not getting stability. They don't know anything about you. So if there's a claim, they're more likely to drop you if there's a significant event.
And there's levers you can pull. You can up your deductible. You can
Yes.
lower your coverages, things like that will lower your rate just naturally with who you're with.
Yeah.
Because you get discounts and benefits from being with one carrier for long amounts of time. So there are things you can do.
We had a client. This is one of our Arizona clients, kind of a funny little story. She had State Farm, and through our investigation and working with her, it turns out that she'd had State Farm for 70 years.
How long?
70
I
years.
thought you said 7.
No,
70.
70.
Wow.
She's 72. So you're like, well, how'd that happen? Well, her parents had State Farm. And when you spin off from your parents' policy, you get to keep the original effective date of that policy. So she's literally had 70 terms, but she's only had insurance herself for, 54 years, give or take, something like that. Well, the event that happened with her, she has a secondary house that is vacant. This is a very big deal in our industry. So vacant houses are a scourge because of squatters.
Right.
So until they get the squatters laws, some states are being more proactive at that. I can tell you the West Coast is not as fast, Arizona included, Washington, Oregon, and California.
Well, Arizona is better than Washington. For
very
sure.
much. But when you have
By
a
a
squatter
mile.
in there because the house was vacant, you have a long time to get them out. It's going to take a long time. They're going to cause a lot of damage. They always trash the place. Lots of vandalism and malicious mischief type of a claim. Your renter's policy would cover that. If you're a landlord, a lot of times these aren't landlord situations. It's just an old homeowner's policy on there. Well, that's going to be an excluded claim, or they're going to cancel that policy because the house has been vacant for more than 30 days. That's in every contract. Most people don't know that. So with her, they found out that she had a vacant house. They canceled that house. She thought they canceled her entire thing, which
all of her policies.
And we met with her. Great conversation. Fantastic client. Very willing to do the right thing. She thought she was going to have to switch everything over to us. I'm like, no, actually the smart play here would be just let us take care of that vacant house. We want you to stay with State Farm because that's where your benefits are. They're taking great care of you on every other thing. This is just an oddball piece that we can carve that out because we're brokers. We can do that. We wrote her a standalone policy for that vacant house that she can cancel the second it sells. It's for sale. It's probably going to take a few months to sell, but she's in a better financial position because of that.
Well, and what you could have done was say, of course, we want to
We could have
gobble up
taken it
all of your
all.
policies.
Yeah.
Well, that's what she said. She was like, I can't believe you're not trying to take all my policies.
She was
Thank
baffled.
God.
What are you
Thank
talking
God.
about?
Yeah.
Yeah. And her premiums would have gone way up
Way
because
up
she was with
because
State
of it.
Farm for 70 years. She's got
So many
grandfathered
discounts.
benefits. Yeah.
And that's what we do in our agency. That's the culture. We're not trying to just gobble up all of your stuff. We're trying to make the best financial platform for you.
Then you're right. We're going to come back and we're going to refer you and want to bring
and
you more business.
she wrote a fantastic review for us because of it. Just because she's like, I thought these guys were going to come in here and just steal all my money. Like she was prepared for it.
I was just going to say that she was prepared to move everything if she needed to, but not happy about it and didn't really understand all the moving pieces. And you were able to educate her.
Right. But as you're probably aware, in Arizona, word travels very fast if you're ethical or not, or if you're positive. She knows about 1.5 billion people.
She does.
She tells everybody that story.
Yeah.
And it's just been, we couldn't pay her to do that.
No, that's great.
It's gold.
So talk to us about theft rings, right? We talked about squatters, but are we, I don't watch the news often, but when I do, I'm constantly seeing, crazy things going on in our world. How do we protect ourselves from break-ins? And is the conversation different between an individual policy and a business policy?
Great question. Insurance is always there for the aftermath. Unfortunately, we can't really help you on the front end. We would always recommend having, alarms and cameras, especially for small businesses, homeowners. It's usually a pretty significant discount on your policy if you have a centrally monitored burglar and fire alarm. It's always recommended. You can get a Simply Safe, contract for I think $30 a month now.
Yeah, those are
really
pretty
inexpensive, and you're getting the full discount from a carrier, and it can be 10 to 15%. It can actually pay for itself. And then you just have peace of mind. A lot of people in Arizona own guns or coin collections or baseball cards, things like that. There's limits on your insurance policy that will pay for that stuff if they're not protected properly. So the theft rings was a really big deal down here, and your neighborhoods are turning out to be more vigilant now than they were. They're really watching this. Some of our neighbors have drones out watching for people just walking through the Tonto forest out there.
Taking license plates, weird looking cars. And
it's sad that we have to do that, but it's just the reality we live in. There's a lot of theft up here only because it's just accessible. So the theft rings was a really big deal. The police have done a great job, I think, of kind of jumping on that. Scottsdale police, for sure.
Yeah.
They've been very proactive on that. We're very impressed. The small business owners, this is an even bigger issue. The organized retail theft rings. So you've got people who will go in and just the word's escaping me, shoplift, because they can. Some states, the West Coast specifically, they can walk in and there's a threshold of about $1,000 that they won't prosecute.
Yep.
And they know it. They'll steal shampoo. They will steal
whatever they can get their hands on.
Anything, and they will sell it on eBay or whatever. And it's unfortunate because that's driving the insurance companies to stop covering those types of risks. It's almost impossible now to cover a convenience store because of theft or violence at these convenience stores. And so these small business owners are going to have to pay more to get insurance in a secondary market. It's unfortunate, but a good agent or a broker can help you navigate that process and work with you to kind of, take some of the sting out of that additional premium, because their revenue is not going up either. They have more expenses in general. It costs more for them to borrow money or hire people. We're just one component of an already painful process of being a business owner.
Yeah.
People have a lot of things in their houses they don't think about insuring. For example, we have friends, he's got a football helmet collection that's signed, and a lot of them.
He has 15 Super Bowl helmets signed by, Joe Montana, I didn't want to say OJ Simpson, but I think he's got an OJ Simpson one, but they're very valuable.
But he wouldn't have thought to have insured.
No,
them.
you don't think to have insured, because they asked you for the, how much contents, and you don't think of the value of these things. So if someone comes in and steals some of those, it's not just a helmet.
That could be several $1,000s.
Right. It's got a lot of value.
Insurance company is only going to give you the actual cash value or the replacement cost of the helmet, not the signature on it.
Right.
Unless there's proof of it.
And you have to think to tell your insurance agent that they're not walking through your house. They're not a realtor going through, looking at everything, or an appraiser, right?
Yeah.
You have to think about, what do I have that's super valuable that if I could sell a day for thousands of dollars? Let me tell my insurance agent about that, so to make sure it's on my policy.
Yep.
So your team is clearly asking those questions.
Correct.
And helping kind of, find out what do you need most and how do we customize?
Yeah, because really the worst day in our industry is when you call us and say, I've got a claim, and it's like, sorry, you don't have coverage.
Right.
It doesn't make us feel good. You're going to be angry and frustrated with us. Well, you didn't tell me. Well, you didn't tell me you had this stuff either.
Right.
So who's really, but that's not our job. We want to, if it's just an economic situation and you just can't afford it, that's fine. But we want to make sure you have the right information to make a valuable,
educated decision.
That's
for
all
sure.
Right, because you don't know what
is.
you don't know.
Yeah.
So
every day there is a new story about some major institution having their data compromised. This is a big topic here at our studio quite frequently. What are ways that businesses and individuals can protect themselves better in, the event that something like this happens? Is it it's an insurance conversation?
It is, absolutely. Yeah. Cyber insurance is probably the fastest growing segment in our industry right now.
Cyber insurance.
Insurance. So whether it's a personal policy that's a rider on your homeowner's policy, you can buy individual standalone policies, or more frequently it's a business product, because you're fiduciarily responsible for the data that you control. So we have about 17,000 clients in our agency, and we're responsible for their data. We have their social security numbers. We have their banking information. We have their medical information because of the life insurance policy. We have a lot of sensitive data that if we're unfortunately compromised, we're responsible for paying to get them back to where they were. That's not inexpensive. These are not cheap claims. So you have to provide, depending on the state where you're at, you have to provide credit monitoring for them for X amount of years after the fact if there's an event. everybody, I mean, literally everybody at this point has had their data compromised. There's no one that hasn't. I was part of the Home Depot fiasco 10 years ago. I was personally, I had my bank account compromised, and they were buying gift cards from my bank account. Whole other story, but they were responsible for providing me a credit report for that for X amount of years. We educate clients on getting an MFA process, a multi-factor authentication. Again, that's one of Mary's strong suits. So when she came in, one of the first things she did was implement that in our agency. So we have an exposure. She filled the gap. It's not bulletproof. You can't be bulletproof, but you have to be able to have the tools in place to help when something bad goes wrong. So we educate all of our clients to get cyber insurance. There's recovery for your data if it is stolen. We pay for CPAs or attorneys to come in and clean up the mess. That's what the cyber policy is going to cover.
Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
It's so boring. It's so boring. But
well, but thank goodness you can do, again, all the research and get all the information for us so that we can make an educated decision.
For sure.
Let's talk also about employment practices and lawsuits. So what's happening around this so that businesses can protect themselves?
Yeah, kind of like the story you were telling about. It was kind of funny. We joke about it, like hiring your spouse, for example. That's its own problem. But what you can and can't say in an interview, what you can and can't do in the workplace, what was perfectly fine yesterday is not necessarily fine today. So employment practices protects a business, specifically a business, for the wage and age discrimination lawsuits, sexual harassment, wrongful termination, things of that nature. So if you just, and these are, I don't have the exact number, but I'd be bet it's the vast majority of the time. These are just differences of opinions and situations where someone said something that they wouldn't have told their grandma at church. And they didn't mean anything by it, but it obviously wasn't appropriate. So
someone got beefed up about it.
Someone got upset. Yep. And a lot of times it's perspective, or you're just not sensitive enough, or they might be too sensitive. But at any point, they can file a lawsuit and say, like, well, you wronged me this way. And it's not necessarily the indemnity where there's actually a payment to that person for the wrong that was done. That does happen a lot. The cost of the employment practices is in the attorneys that have to figure it out. These are $400 to $600 an hour attorneys. These are not inexpensive defenses. So oftentimes the defense is really what gets nuts in those claims. And the indemnity, where there's a payout, doesn't happen as frequently as just defending your name, because someone can say anything,
So a business would be smart to have. Is that an addition to the policy?
It is. And it's very inexpensive in the big picture. It's usually just a rider on your typical business policy, employment practices. You can buy standalone if you need higher limits. And same with cyber. That can be its own policy, or it can just be a rider on your current policy, depending on the levels you need and the exposure you have. And
we really can't guess what thing is going to happen to us, right? So
no, you never know.
You can't.
You never know.
No, we've had a situation where we had a client had a very high profile EPLI claim, employment practices claim. I can't defend what he did, but it was ridiculous. But the point I'm trying to make is it was completely normal culture in this office. They had, trying to figure out how I can say this without getting.
Maybe not.
It was a risque culture.
It was a risque culture, and it was perfectly fine when it was all the boys. They had they had a female in there that just didn't partake in that. They treated her like the boys, and she didn't appreciate it. She got a significant 6-figure lawsuit out of it, a payment out of it, because it wasn't acceptable. I'm not justifying it or condoning it at all. It was highly inappropriate, but because it was fine yesterday, it wasn't fine today. And that's really how a lot of these things
that
start.
happens all the time.
All the time.
Sure, it does. And more and more people are defending their beliefs and their place, and perhaps they should, but we need to be smart and be aware of what's happening and be protective.
At the end of the day, insurance is just there to protect you when your common sense fails you. Common sense is really lacking, I'd say, in a lot of our life, in our industry at least.
Or when things happen.
Wildfires,
hurricanes.
Yeah, and sometimes
earthquakes.
we don't know, right? I was going to say naivety, but if we don't know, we don't know.
No.
So to have a layer of protection there.
Correct.
How about we talked a little bit about vehicles, but I'm curious about. Can you share a little bit about the pros and cons of using your vehicle for business? And how, from an insurance perspective, how do you keep that separate? Do you need to? What are some of the things to watch out when you are using your vehicle for business?
This gets interesting with Ubers
Yes.
and Lyfts
Oh.
because it's your personal
Sure.
vehicle, but
Yeah.
sometimes you're an Uber.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're a Lyft.
Your insurance policy doesn't just cover you if you want to drive for Uber. You have to tell your agent
Mhm.
that you're driving for Uber. Maybe your current policy won't accommodate that exposure because at the end of the day, they're underwriting you. You have your car. We know you. We don't know about the people in your car. You might have Larry Bird in your back seat and you get in an accident and you hurt Larry Bird. That's going to be an expensive claim, versus having Ryan Ferry in your back seat. Not as expensive. So they just need to know what the situation is. So if you are driving or you're delivering pizza or you're a realtor, this is often the case down here. If you're an independent contractor, you're a consultant, a realtor, a financial planner, an insurance agent, you're using your personal car to do business. There's an exposure there that the insurance company is not prepared for. So you need to let your agent know so that they can cover you. And it's a very simple fix. It's literally just a quick little endorsement. You pay an extra $10-12 a month for that endorsement, but the insurance company is getting additional premium to protect that additional risk.
Mm-hmm.
Because the problem is if you get in an accident and you hurt a client that's in the backseat of your car, you're out on a real estate showing, they're going to deny the claim. And now you're not only going to look like an idiot to your client, you're also going to have a financial exposure that you're not prepared for out of pocket.
I know, right?
There's really, it comes down
so
to just
complicated.
But for someone like you, I'm guessing, Mary,
Yeah,
who's data driven and likes the research, you can help us understand it in a far more simplified way.
Yeah. I'd say, I mean, he's like the encyclopedia of insurance, and I'm just like, Joe Smith, like,
Yeah.
This is crazy. There's so much that goes into it. It's so complicated. There's a million things that influence it. From the economy to interest rates to government to the election to this to that.
And your clients rely on you knowing all
Correct.
those moving pieces.
Yeah.
That's why, That's why we look to you as the
we don't do our
experts for that.
taxes because I don't want to read 70,000 pages of tax code.
But you better.
We have a CPA.
And you better hope that CPA is doing it.
Correct.
Well, this is the thing, right? Because you can go online and get insurance like right now.
Yeah.
Sign up. But you may have all of these weird circumstances that the computer doesn't know about.
Right.
And then you're not going to be covered for it. And then when you try to submit a claim, you're not going to be covered for it. So this is where we come in because insurance is complicated and there's a lot of weird things that happen. And we've seen it all. We're like, the farmer's commercial or something. We've seen that.
We've seen that.
So
literally, we
know what questions to ask and make sure you're covered because people don't think about these things. Mm-hmm. I didn't think about these things.
And really, your insurance broker, this is where the broker versus a captive agent is a little different. A captive's looking at it from the carrier's point of view. We're looking at it from your point of view. So really, you need to use this as a resource to think of us as just a financial planner, an attorney, a CPA. We're one more of your professionals that is going to give you advice. We're licensed. We have to have a license. We carry millions of dollars in errors and omissions insurance in case we just have a bad day. We're there to protect you. So again, at the end of the day, it's your pocketbook. You have to pay to do it. We work for free until you buy a product. That's the way it is. So use us as much as you can. We'll talk you through every different scenario and we'll explain to you how you can better protect yourself. If at the end of the day you just can't afford it, that's business. That's just the way it is. But you at least know that there's this exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
you just be as upfront with your agent as you can. Tell them as much information. They're there to help you.
Yeah, don't try to say, "Oh, I've never had an accident."
Yeah, they're gonna know.
They're gonna find it. They search and they find it. I mean, that's just what it is.
Right.
Like back to my original comment, the insurance industry knows almost as much as the government does about you.
It's like Carfax on steroids.
Yeah.
There's so much public data out there, and these insurance companies are so sophisticated at collecting data, just trillions of different data types that they just know about you. And because everything is public record. You know,
Mhm.
they're going to get it from some way, somehow. And they know everything about you. So the problem you run into is when you don't disclose something with the carrier, with your agent, and when they input that data into the application and they know you're not being as upfront or maybe misremembering something, because no one lies, they're going to find out. And that's when the problem comes in. That's where you have the uncomfortable conversations, because the carrier drops you, they upcharge you because they found out something else that you didn't disclose. And a lot of times there's very innocent reasons why it's not disclosed. You just forget.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting older. I'm 51 years old. My memory is not as good as it was when I was 21.
Right.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
A lot of time in the sun. So, things happen, but
Yeah.
you have to be able to recover from that. And that's where an agent's going to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. We talked about fires. What about floods? How do folks protect themselves, or can they? I mean, I've heard different things. I'm not necessarily in a flood zone where I have to be worried about, but I do hear different stories. What do people do? Can they protect themselves from this kind of situation?
Yeah, absolutely.
Floods are a hot mess.
Yeah.
Because water destroys everything.
Yeah. And what's a flood?
Right.
Oh,
Right.
really? Does that matter? I mean, that comes down to the little
It does.
nuances.
So a flood's defined as water that's not supposed to be there, and it's covered 2 acres or 2 adjacent parcels. So if you live in a normal development down here, we get significant amounts of rains in very short amount of time here. And it's very unpredictable. You might go years without a significant event, but there's washes here for a reason, because Mother Nature wins. And when too much water gets in there, you need flood insurance. Flood is excluded from your normal homeowner's policy. And this could be if you're on the coast, if there's a tsunami, that's a flood. Hurricane surge, storm surge from a major tropical storm or hurricane in Florida and Texas. It's a very big thing. Those are all excluded under your normal homeowner's policy. Again, very bad days when you call and tell your agent, like, hey, my neighbor's pipe broke up there and all my house is flooded. Well, does that qualify as a flood, or is that just water intrusion? So there's a lot of different things. It's just better. If you're not in a flood zone, it's pennies on the dollar to have a flood policy. It's
really?
It's super inexpensive.
Super cheap, because you're not in a
Super
flood zone.
cheap.
So they anticipate that you're not going to have a flood.
Yeah.
And flood, to your point about this example of the neighbor pipe bursting or whatever. Let's say my washing machine or my dishwasher or whatever, a pipe breaks or whatever. I don't know the right terminology, but I come home and my home is flooded. Is that a different coverage? Okay,
that's different.
So that's homeowners.
Yeah, that's homeowners
Yeah,
insurance. So in that scenario there, and this happens every day, your toilet backs up, your dishwasher fails, the hot water tank breaks.
Yeah.
Those are events. So the irony is they will cover all of the damage caused by that water, but they won't cover the hot water tank that exploded or the toilet that broke.
Right.
That's a maintenance issue. That's
fun.
a homeowner's
Yeah.
thing.
That's
on your
us.
cost of the house. But
Interesting.
they'll cover the $30,000 in floor damage that it did, because you have to replace all your hardwood. So it's very ironic.
My gosh, I've learned so much from both of you. I
It's
love it.
super boring.
Well, I don't know. You make it pretty fun. I don't know if it's been boring. It's been fantastic. Is there anything else that you feel our viewers and listeners would want to know on the business side of things when it comes to insurance? We've covered a couple of things, but is there anything else that is worth noting that's trending or that we need to be aware of? We talked about cyber security. We talked about employment protection.
I would say probably the biggest thing, and this is for personal or commercial insurance, business insurance, is really just making sure the values of what you've got insured are appropriate right now. With inflation, the cost of doing business has just skyrocketed. I don't know if you've tried to hire a contractor to do any kind of work on your house lately. They're either unavailable or they're charging you a third or half as much more than they did a year ago.
Yep.
There's just no labor. People aren't able to work. You can't get a car in a body shop. You can't get a rental car if your car is in the shop. So making sure that you've got the ability. Most people carry $30 a day in rental car coverage. So if your car is in the shop due to a covered claim, the insurance company will give you $30 to go to Enterprise and get a car. If you try to get a car at Enterprise for $30 a day lately, it's nearly impossible. Or you're going to get a Geo Metro, from 2010. So you need to have higher limits. They just don't cover that. So you need to be prepared. The values of your house are gone. The replacement cost of your house is significantly higher today than it was a year ago. So that doesn't mean that you can sell your house for more money. That just means that to repair it, if there's a damage or a claim, it's going to cost you just that much more to fix it. and you just might not have enough coverage. So you need to make sure you're having those conversations yearly with your insurance agent, your broker, making sure you've got the appropriate coverages, and you can mitigate the cost with higher deductibles. Most people shouldn't turn in a claim on a homeowner's if it's unless it's over about 2,500. You really shouldn't be turning in a homeowner's claim nowadays. It's just not worth it. They're just going to drop you, and it's going to be impossible to get a
Talk to your
replacement.
agent about that.
Talk to your agent about
Before
that.
you put the claim in.
Yeah, always
Just
call
talk
your
to your
agent.
agent.
We advocate for our clients. We're there through the claims process. And I know I'm spewing all of this data out there for you and this information, but really just have the conversation with your agent, because there's a lot of times when you just should not turn in that claim. And or if you want to have a conversation about it to see if you should turn it in,
That's what you're there for.
we're there off the record. We're there as your advocate to help you. And if you do want to turn it in, or if it's 10 o'clock at night and you call the carrier directly, they have to start a claim. That's what they have to do. Now they know something happened.
But your agent isn't going to do that.
Agent doesn't necessarily have to do that, because we have we're there to advocate for you and educate you through the process. And the carriers want us to do that.
Yep.
They really do. It's not like this is like you're cheating or something. This is literally the way it should work. They want us to educate their clients and make sure, because they will pay the claim. They absolutely will pay the claim. But should they? Is it in your best interest?
Your premium will probably go
Your
up.
premium
So
will go
it's
up.
a talk with your agent.
Yeah.
Pros and cons. But from a business perspective, there's a lot of things that go into a business policy. Like, I hear him when he's talking to clients. I mean, it's like an interview. It's like, you need your payroll.
Yeah.
How many assets do you have? How many buildings do you have? Do you own them? Do you not? How many trucks do you have? Do you have any cars? All of that.
Yeah.
And
It's
as
a process.
as the year goes on, and in this year term policy, you have to constantly let us know, okay, I got a new driver. This driver left. It's constantly keeping all of your data up to date. And then when it renews, did your payroll go up? Did your expenses go up? Did your revenue go up? It's a constant back and forth on the business side.
It's not a set it and forget it.
No,
It is not. No.
definitely not.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's important to have a good relationship with your agent there, and be able to tell them, things that are going on, whether you're experiencing a downturn, an upturn, whatever,
Yeah.
because it all affects it, and you want to
Yeah.
make sure you're covered based on your data. So
Yeah. Mary, when you started with Ryan and he was like, I don't know, this is a good idea.
yeah.
Did you kind of have a vision, either of you for that matter, have a vision for how successful you would be at this point? I mean, you've opened how many offices in Arizona now?
2 offices in Arizona.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have that foresight?
I knew he could do amazing things. I knew it, and I knew that we could make this, I knew we could make this bigger. We could do good things. I didn't really anticipate that we would be this successful, to be honest. But I thought, together we could do this really well.
Mm-hmm.
So I was excited. I was, there was all this potential, and owning a business. I mean, the good goes with the bad, right? You have upturns, you have downturns, and you got to kind of roll with it. And I have learned that over and over and over again, but still learning it. But it's super exciting to see it grow and see what we're doing. And I'm a tech nerd, so see what I can do on the tech side to make customer service easier, better, the customer experience better, the employee experience better. That's super exciting to me. He's bored as hell with that, so that kind of works out.
Yeah.
Right. So
who leads the team? Is it a combination of both of you, or do you have somebody who does that?
we have a director of operations.
Okay.
That handles a lot of stuff for us.
Her job is to keep us out of jail and keep the
Excellent.
licenses all. I joke about that, but
I
really
love it.
she's integral to the.
She's huge.
She's huge. She absorbs a lot of the fodder that just comes from just
Sure.
the
Day to
normal stuff.
day.
She handles a lot of the carrier relationships. So if there's a compliance issue, we needed a form or a waiver signed, and we didn't have it. She controls that. A lot of different stuff. I'd say I'm very much that high level guy still. We have a weekly team meeting, and I get on there. We make it fun and lively, and then the hammers come by.
Sure.
I've got 2 velvet hammers, Mary and Christina. And then we also have a commercial lines manager that she just when we sell commercial, there's so much back end stuff that has to happen. Someone has to manage that process, and she's responsible
Huge.
for that. Handles all of the renewals coming up for the clients, and the team will handle all of the getting the data out. But we're very much a team, I'd say.
Yeah.
We have different strengths and weaknesses, and I think
Yeah, we
we're
kind
very
of know each other's roles and like,
Very
okay, this
much.
is you, this is you,
Yeah.
this is you.
With
It's kinda-
with all of you.
It is
Right,
kind of funny.
right.
The employees will come to us. It's very much like what'd your mom say? What'd your dad say?
Right.
So it just kind of works out. We're very family friendly in the agency. We all have kids. We all know that there's life, there's soccer games, there's, whatever. We're very flexible. We love to make sure that our employees are happy.
Mhm.
We have little contests with them all the time.
We have contests all the time,
Yeah.
and we have virtual happy hours
Fun.
once a month. So
This
we
Friday,
all get on.
eventually.
Yeah, that's right.
We close the office early. Everyone has a cocktail.
Yeah.
Because we are so spread out with 13 offices in 4 states, it does get a little challenging to bring camaraderie.
Yeah.
A lot of times they won't come across each other. We're just not.
Yeah. In this
Close
age
enough.
of remote, it's super hard to like
Yes.
foster personal relationships.
But you sounds like you're doing it. Yeah. So you
We're
mentioned
trying.
4 states. I heard Arizona and Washington, but what are the other 2 I'm not aware of?
Oregon, we have an office in Beaverton,
Okay.
Oregon, just west of Portland,
Mm-hmm.
right next to Nike, and Carlsbad, California.
Oh, excellent place. One of my favorite
Very
places.
beautiful, but probably our most
Hard.
painful office.
Hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you looking to add more agents? Are you currently
Always looking to add
Always.
agents. Yeah.
And what does it look like for someone who might be listening and viewing today? They're like, I really like these 2, and I either have insurance background or I don't. What's the first step?
Really, I mean, it's the old adage: if you like what you do, you're never going to have a job. I love what I do. I
Mhm.
literally fell into insurance. It's like anything. Like no one goes into insurance.
And no one is in 3rd grade going, I want to be an insurance broker.
Yeah.
Like it's just not.
Yeah, I know.
She says it's not sexy. It is not sexy.
No, the
Like,
dream job.
It's not the dream
But
job.
Yeah, but it's awesome. So
but if you like
it's
helping
necessary.
people, it is necessary.
it's necessary. Everyone needs insurance. you
And
know?
it can be very lucrative. Many of our employees do very well. They're compensated, whether it's a commission or a salary based. There's always, we kind of tailor each person's compensation based on their needs and wants and their abilities. If they just like doing it, they like helping people. It's very touchy feely.
Mhm.
So
You have to like helping people.
you have to
Yeah.
like
If you don't like
helping
helping people, this is not the space.
And that's who
for
you're
you.
looking for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do
for
they just
sure.
reach out through the website? If someone,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, through
Yep.
the website, email. Our emails are on there. You can email me or Ryan, or
Mhm.
We have an apply
love to hear
now.
from you.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the website?
EIB. So it's like Empire Insurance Brokers, but we couldn't get that domain. So it's EIBNOW.com.
Okay. EIBNOW.com. And your offices here in Arizona are located where?
Scottsdale up in DC Ranch.
Yeah, in DC Ranch at Market Street Center. We're
We're
up in there.
And then Lake Havasu, we also have an office over there.
Oh my gosh. Carlsbad, like Havasu.
We like the
All
sun.
the fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, that's how
very
we even
smart.
ended up here. So I
Right.
didn't really talk about this. So I was part of a national insurance roundtable. Like they bring top agents in and you strategize. Well, they'd always bring us into Scottsdale. And my wife, being my wife, she liked to come with me.
I'm from Florida.
She's from
Oh, yeah.
Florida.
So I like the sun
Mhm.
So we're in Seattle. Rain,
constantly.
9 months out of the year it's overcast. She's comes and she says, "What is this place?"
I did. I was like, there's no clouds in the sky and there's sun like every day.
And this is like December.
What
Like,
is
we're-
happening and why are we not here?
She's like,
You
why
fell
do
in
we
love
not
with
live
it.
here?
I completely fell in love with it. I love it down here. I love it. I love the landscape. I love the people. There's so many things to do. There's so many places to eat.
You
I
can
love
eat at a
trying new
different restaurant
restaurants.
every
Oh my
day of the
god.
Oh,
week
yeah.
I
for
love it.
years.
And
not
Arizona
2 weeks.
keeps getting better. I've been here since 1979. Came in high school. My dad had a transfer out here, and to watch this, this
Oh, it's
state, and
exploded.
specifically
It's
Greater
awesome.
Phoenix grow, has been amazing.
Yeah.
Really hated to see the Coyotes leave us. That's the
I saw that. Were they going to
Yeah.
Utah?
yes,
Oh,
yeah.
We tried to get him in
That
Seattle,
sucks.
if
Yeah.
you remember a few years ago.
I
but-
do. Yeah. But yeah. Well, it has been a pleasure to get to know you. I had said that when we started the conversation an hour ago. I told you it'd go
Was
very
it really
fast.
an
Yeah,
hour?
it's been an
It
hour.
did go fast.
And I
yeah.
said to our viewers and listeners that, in just the 5 to 10 minutes that we had gotten to know each other already, I was very much looking forward to the conversation. You both are dynamic, and your team and your clients are very lucky to have you. So appreciate your time. And again, Mary, for reaching out and saying, hey, we'd like to share our story. I'm so glad you chose us to do
yes.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
We
You've
appreciate
been a
it.
great host. We appreciate
Oh,
it.
Thank you. You've been listening to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from the Max 6 Entrepreneur Center. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we obviously lean insurance. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.